You can go back and see days that are dead and gone 100,000 sunsets ago.
Not a bad life.
Better with two.
The stiffs are getting lively again. Use the sight. Find the old lady, or you're dismissed.
What phantasmagoria is this? That's more like it. I saw the fall of Troy, World War V. Now I'm going to die in a dungeon. In Cardiff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discussing Who. As of this recording, it is Thursday, January the 25th, 2018, and we are preparing to review Doctor Who Series 1, Episode number 3, The Unquiet Dead. So for you, wherever you may be in all of space and time, thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our show via Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast player. Also, we invite you to check out our new Discussing Comics podcast, where we discuss a variety of characters wherever they may be found, be it the big screen, the small screen, online, or in print. To find out more and subscribe, you can visit discussingcomics.com. Now, for introductions, and a welcome back, Mr. Lee Shackelford.
Hi, guys. I'm back with you.
Yep.
And ready to talk about the Unquiet Dead.
They just won't never stay quiet. They keep walking, don't they?
Exactly.
All right. So welcoming also Mr. Clarence Brown. What's been going on with you, Clarence?
Trying to stay as far away from the rift as I can. You know, kind of what I try to do generally. I'm doing good.
Cool. Well,
how about yourself, sir?
I can't complain. It's not freezing in the south. You know, I want to mention something. I'm glad you asked that. In our last episode, we were talking, or it may have been the episode before that, but I think it was the last one. We were talking about snow for some reason and being cold, and we were wondering whether or not that there was snow in Britain. And our friend Dave Cooper replied and showed us some pictures, and the answer to do they get snow in Britain is a big yes.
Yes.
Yeah, his Volkswagen was almost completely buried by the snow, so I felt kind of bad about that one.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like I should have just gone to like the Weather Channel, but it was like, it was a good way to like bring Dave into the conversation nonetheless.
That's right.
But it was like, okay, I should have gone to the Weather Channel.
You know, it ties right in with this episode because that Dickensian Christmas that, you know, lives in all of our minds thanks to A Christmas Carol. It's all snow. It's all snow and ice. It's, you know, we know that London gets buried in snow sometimes, especially when it's Christmas Day.
Absolutely. Especially, but see, I always see, so, you know, well, I'm not going to say spoilers. I'm just going to say science fiction in general. I've always just attributed the snow in Britain to like exploding spaceships.
That's not snow. That's ash.
Yeah. So, you know, that's just how I've always kind of just in my mind kind of looked at it was, that's not snow. That's exploding ash.
Yes.
So, let's talk just for a second. There was something that I saw online, and I shared this article with you guys. Did you have a chance to read the article that I posted about the strange copyright of Doctor Who?
No, I have not.
Oh, I did, although there were no surprises. That's all stuff that I knew, but that's, you know, those are things that are of interest to me. So I've read about that many times in the past.
All right. So Lee, why don't you kind of, cause I, you know, some of those things were new to me. So, for anyone listening, and since Clarence hadn't had a chance, cause I just posted it earlier today, like literally during the workday. So, kind of clue in for myself included. Give us the synopsis of the copyrights and Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's only a surprise to us here in the U.S. because we're accustomed to the big corporation model of intellectual property. So if you work for Marvel and you are a writer, an artist, whoever, and you create a character, that character now belongs to Marvel. If you are drawing for Disney and so on, you create a character that belongs to Disney. That's just how it goes, and that's part of the deal when you go to work for them. But when in the early days of Doctor Who, the deal was that if a writer comes in and creates a character, that character belongs not to the BBC but to that writer. So from the second series of the original Doctor Who, Terry Nation has been the Dalek person. And every time that they brought the Daleks back, they've had to go to negotiate with Terry Nation. And I love that his last name is Nation. So that just seems to me like the Terry Nation is full of Daleks. But the same thing, and I'm not going to be able to recall the names of all these other writers, but the person who created the Autons owns the Autons, the person who created Cybermen, and so on and so forth. You'll notice that is no longer true in terms of the new things being created. But like from from Rose, they had to negotiate with the family that still owns the Autons.
Yeah, interesting.
And so I guess that's going to be true in perpetuity. But the writer who created who wrote the now I'm drawing a blank on the Fourth Doctor serial that introduced K9 because he wrote that K9 is his.
Is it the same guy that does the let's see, was created by Bob Baker and Dave Martin, and they still hold the rights? There's
so many professional Bob Bakers that I can never remember which one is which. So that may be true. That may be right.
So here's the thing that's interesting about K9. Yeah. That's why we've had all of these, the Australian spinoff that people pretty much couldn't stand because they gave this new, I'm going to call it cutesy version of K9 that, pretty much was, pretty much a flop. So.
Yeah. Because he was cute enough already. You don't.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing wrong with him.
You don't need to add a layer of cute.
It was. Yeah. I mean, he was K9. So, I mean, the interesting thing that I find about that kind of makes me wonder if the way things were done, especially in the 50s, 40s, 30s, it was just a different time and a different medium, and no one expected these characters to still be around this much longer, because this sounds very similar to a YouTube video that Clarence and I did on our YouTube channel, which can be found at youtube.discussingwho.com, where we talked about how the gentleman by the name of Bob Kane, who created Batman, was not really the sole creator of Batman.
Right. That we've been undervaluing the contribution of Bill Finger for decades.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, I just thought that was quite interesting. And why is this timely now? All of this came back up recently because the person who created Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart had rights to not only Lethbridge Stewart, but I'm sure had to get permission for there to be a Kate Stewart. And obviously they didn't ask for permission to create the grandfather Stewart.
Right. So yes. So that writer's heirs and assigns all sat up at the end of Twice Upon a Time and said, wait a minute. Excuse me, please.
You're not paying me for this?
Right. Yeah. Aren't we supposed to get a £1.50 every time somebody says Lethbridge Stewart? So,
yeah, I think what's interesting about this is that these characters really are nothing without Doctor Who. So it's like sort of an inverse of what we have over here in America. You can't really take these characters and spin off a show and it be any good. I guess you could try. Well,
We've had three different K9 shows with the idea that yes, you can, but yeah, I think you're right. What happens is,
and now they're trying to. Actually, I think in Australia they're doing it a K9 big screen movie.
So on those K9 standalone adventures, can they reference Doctor Who? Is that not allowed?
I don't think so.
I would think so. I mean, not so like Lee's saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, something else is interesting here that I guess kind of separates this from America is the fact that isn't the BBC owned by the government? Is that true?
In a way, yeah. I mean, it's paid for by ratepayers. They, instead of commercials and so on, you pay a fee up front. It's not really a government entity, but it is. I'm sure Dave could explain that so much better. But but it amounts to being I guess it's more like a utility. It's sort of like your local power company. Yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I said, so in that sense, as to oppose what we have over here, where everything is pretty much owned by a big corporation with interests, lawyers, and all this stuff behind it, it's a vastly different landscape than what you see in this case.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, well, when I was reading that article, I was thinking how interesting it is that at the same time that people like Terry Nation came away from the first Dalek story owning what has turned into an empire, the Empire of the Daleks.
Yeah.
But that meanwhile, if you were an employee outright of the BBC, then, for example, if you were Delia Derbyshire, her contract says that anything that she does is the output of the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. So, it was a long time before any of us as fans really had any idea what an extraordinary genius she was and how amazing the creation of that original theme tune was, and a myriad of other sound effects that she created, because her name is not on it. Because as far as the BBC is concerned, she's the BBC Radiophonic Workshop.
Correct.
Yeah. And kind of like with the case of Bill Finger, her family has had to campaign, and fans have campaigned, and now she's actually getting credit for the original theme song, which is, finally.
Which I think that's really, really cool that one of the top Doctor Who podcasts is number one, all women, and number two, is named after her. I just think that's really, really cool.
Yep, as well it should be.
So,
yeah.
All right. So before we get into the actual review that we're here to talk about tonight, I just want to mention once again that Wholanta 2018 is coming up. You can find out more information at wholanta.com. That will be in the first weekend of May, this, coming spring. And right now guests include Louise Jameson, who is Leela, and Rachel. And I'm going to let Lee, say the name as she says it. Talali. Got you. Cool beans.
So, Cal, I almost had a heart attack when I read Louise Jameson, and I had a slightly dyslexic moment and read it as Jenna Louise. I'm like, what?
I could see that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Your eyes saw what you wanted to see.
Yeah, memory.
Exactly, yeah.
But then your eyes had a little bit of clarity and saw that it was Leela.
Ooh, clarity. That's good. Has Jenna done a convention in the U.S.? Do we know?
Don't know. Do you, Clarence? You're the
Claire.
I want to say yes. I've definitely seen her as the headliner on a few, but I know she counseled on one last year, so I don't know if she has been over here. I would say yes, but I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been aware of it. But up here in my part of the South, here in North Carolina, there's a convention coming that is called SuperCon, and is going to have a bazillion hotshot guests, including Catherine Tate and John Barrowman.
Oh wow!
So I hadn't planned to go, but holy smoke!
So when is that?
Oh, golly, I don't know. SuperCon Raleigh. I think people should Google that.
Cool beans.
Yeah. So,
speaking of John Barrowman, I would think that it would be so cool to see John Barrowman. And if I remember correctly, John Barrowman will be at Pensacon in Florida in the last weekend in February. As will Gemma Redgrave, who is, of course, Kate Stewart, and a lot more. So, anybody interested in Pensacon can go to pensacon.com, and that's again February the 23rd through the 25th.
Coming right up.
Right around the corner, believe it or not. So,
I assume the three of us are all going to be at Wholanta, formerly Timegate. also. Yes.
I would assume no less.
Okay.
I would assume that we already made reservations and all of that. Like, how long ago was it? Maybe 8 months ago.
Okay.
So yes.
Yeah, I have made no plans. So yeah, I'll limp down there and try to catch up with you guys.
Make plans.
I need to make plans.
Make plans. The dead will walk. Make plans. All right. So, gentlemen, do you guys have anything else before we actually get into the episode that we're here to talk about tonight?
I don't think so. What the Shakespeare could we possibly want to talk about other than this?
I don't know, but I do know that I like 2 sugars in my coffee. That's what I do know. So, for anyone watching or listening, we hope that you've watched this episode, because if you have not watched this episode and do not want to be spoiled, put us on pause, go, and if you have Amazon Prime and you're in the U.S., or probably if you're on Amazon Prime or whatever and you're not in the U.S., I don't know, but regardless, go and watch this particular episode, The Unquiet Dead. It is episode number 3 of the 2005 series. So go watch, because if you do not want to be spoiled, beware, because from henceforth, spoilers.
Spoilers. Affirmative. Spoilers. Spoilers. Affirmative. Spoilers.
And the spoiler warning has been given, so let me give just a little facts and then we will delve right in. This particular episode aired on April the 9th, 2005 in the UK. It did not air in the US until March the 24th, 2006, almost a year later in this US on the Sci-Fi Channel. It is written by Mark Gatiss, which was the first time he wrote for the series, and was directed by Euros Lyn, which is the second time for the series for him. So, Clarence, question for you. Initial thoughts. Did you enjoy this episode?
You know, whether you're lighting gas lamps or torching wood, I think this was a very interesting episode. And I always love it when they go in the past, because it's like we're halfway on pins and needles, not to really botch something up that's going to ruin the future. And, you know, a great adventure for Rose going into the past for the first time. So I really enjoyed it.
Okay, Mr. Shackelford, what do you think?
I remember back in March 2006 seeing this and just feeling like now the show has really hit its stride. It's a good, thrilling monster story. I loved the Doctor throughout this, and was just quite taken with Rose's costume. So, yeah, God bless you, Billy Piper. But you know, and it's got Charles Dickens in it, for heaven's sake. And whenever we can go into the past and meet a famous historical figure, that's something that I always enjoy. That's something I usually enjoy, I will say. Sometimes in the classic series, it has not been a big deal, but this was, I thought, a really thoughtful and loving treatment of Dickens at this time in his life. And so I really enjoyed that. And I loved Eve Miles in this show, and I was sorry that she, to skip ahead a bit, gets blown up at the end. And I thought, boy, that's too bad. I kind of like that actress. I was hoping we'd see her again someday.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, truly. I mean, what was her name? Gwyneth?
Gwyneth, yeah.
Yeah. I really and I like the name, too, to believe it
exactly,
or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
If she was on if she could somehow come back as Gwen, that would be
I know.
great.
But it was like she got torched in this episode. Like they had just put her on a stack of wood and just torched her.
And was it in Cardiff? Were we in Cardiff?
Yes, we're in Cardiff. Yes, we're right on top of the rift. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my question for you guys. I don't remember this episode before going in to watch Torchwood. I remember Kyle mentioning that she was on the episode before, and maybe I even looked it up at the time. But wow, this is why this episode is kind of special to me, because I love Torchwood so much. Do they make references in any other episodes or Torchwood itself about her being in the past, or this is a long lost relative or something, or is it just merely we wanted to bring this actor back?
Can we talk about Torchwood? Is that
sure? Let's go
bending
for it.
bending the rules of the episode?
All right. So if anyone has not seen Torchwood and you haven't figured it out already, put us on pause
again.
because from henceforth, spoilers. Spoilers. Okay. So yes, Torchwood.
But yes, the 10th Doctor recognized her. And said, "Is it possible that you had a relative, a great aunt or something that you?" And Gwen said, "Yeah, I've always been told that. Yeah, why do you ask?" "Oh, nothing."
But you know what I found interesting about Torchwood and Clarence, since I've watched all of them, but for Torchwood for me was similar to how your watching of Doctor Who was before we started doing, the reviews, and you would go back and watch a second time, which was, I watched it that one time through, but I can't think of any episode that I went back and watched a second time. So having said that, to correct me if I'm wrong here, do you, or either one of you for that matter, do you guys remember, I know that when Torchwood appeared on Doctor Who, of course he referred to them as, knowing them, but I don't recall on Torchwood proper they ever mentioned the name the Doctor. Even though we did see the hand, the hand in the jar, it was like you might hear the TARDIS groan, or you might hear him say, "Well, a guy gave this to me," or someone, but it was almost like on Torchwood, they didn't maybe have the right to use the name the Doctor.
You know what? The shows have weaved back and forth with a few crossover episodes. I can't really decipher.
And neither can I,
Yeah, I mean, I would say it seems like it because, again, the reference to the hand, I could have sworn they mentioned the Doctor in those instances, but I could be wrong. It could have just been a loose reference where they didn't specifically say the Doctor,
Now, and now this has enticed me to want to go back and watch and see.
Yeah. There you go.
So, I was just going to mention, and I know we're going to get into it, but I wonder did the writer, which I'm assuming is Russell T.
No,
who he didn't write this episode.
Mark Gatiss.
Oh wow,
that's Mark Gatiss. Yeah.
Wow. So, man, they really ran with this Rift idea. I was trying to tie the two together, but man, they really ran with this Rift idea in Torchwood. Because it's the whole premise for the show.
It is. And later on because I guess now that we're talking about things that are going to happen later on, we'll actually pause the TARDIS for a while on the Rift to refuel.
Yeah.
So, boy, this is the one of those rare times when I wish that we were actually doing a video, because I'd like to drop in here a photo that my wife took of me at the spot that they always indicate as being the secret entrance to Torchwood, which is right on top of the Rift. So I've been to the Rift, gentlemen. I don't know what the long-term effects of that has been on me, but
well, here's what you can do: send me the picture, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Very good.
How about that? So here's something that I noticed at the beginning, and it's something interesting that we've been talking about as a fandom lately, which is the wardrobe. We keep talking about we never see the wardrobe, and we keep thinking,
yes.
And he mentions how to get to the wardrobe, and this is as far back. Yes. Yeah. Which I thought was really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, Rose is beautiful. And what the heck is a jumper? Just a shirt? I don't understand.
The sweater. Over here, we say sweater.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, she didn't have
my
jumper.
Changed me jumper, yeah.
Oh, him. It was talking about him.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, and did you guys realize how young the character of Rose was?
Yeah, which certainly made me feel like an old creeper when I was being reminded about it. Like, oh yeah, she's a teenager. Sorry. Yeah, she's 19. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize though that, I guess I just assumed she was in her mid-20s, and I had forgotten that line saying that she was only 19.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And props to him for knowing that and remembering it and caring about it, you know,
And
because
no, go ahead.
You know, because sometimes he doesn't remember things like that, you know. So,
well, I was just going to make a joke and say, want to talk about robbing the cradle? I mean, he was a good 850 at the time, and she's only 19. I mean, can you imagine the age difference?
Well, come on, Cal. The doctor, they can't even help the doctor when he stumbles. They can't touch him. You know, we don't do that.
That's true. That's true.
That's right.
So, you know, it's funny, Clarence, that now that you and Jess have gotten me to watch The Walking Dead, and I'm sitting here watching this episode tonight, and they've got nothing but zombies in this episode. Yeah. I kept hearing you in my head say, it's not about the zombies.
And this one kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where I got in my head that everything that was zombified would be about the zombies. Maybe this is what spoiled my brain for The Walking Dead for a while.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. So, Lee, I have a question for you. You said that this was an episode that you were really, like, excited to talk about. Why?
Just really, what I meant was just that I hadn't been on the show since you started, since we've rebooted and gone back to Rose.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So that's fun, but also because I'm realizing now that it's been a long time since I've gone back to the beginning and watched these episodes, and I'm enjoying them so much. They're so good, aren't they?
Yes.
They're just so good.
Yes.
And which makes you feel like sometimes like, Lord, how the mighty have fallen. But come on. Because I guess because it's been a long time since I felt this week after week. This how, of course, now next week it's the Slitheen, and you know, so we can debate that, I guess. But
yeah.
But I don't want to get us ahead. But I remember that my son and I had The End of the World in some form where we could watch it over and over again. And I'm trying to think, I'm not sure why that was, but he was 10 years old. And I remember him saying, what did the little blue guy say? He means the Mox of Balhoun. There's this one thing where the camera is just moving past them very quickly. He's talking to the face of Bo. And what the Mox of Balhoun is saying is, it's the total bad wolf scenario. And that line is completely thrown away. And I had to go back this time and look. That's the first time that anybody says bad wolf. And you know, we know from our perspective that is being deliberately seeded through the whole season. But I remember how exciting that was once you caught on to the fact that something is being trailed in front of our noses, but there's just no explanation what it is. And then in this one, of course, Gwyneth looks deep into Rose and she recognizes the bad wolf.
He's just right. No.
And so that was the first time that it had become personal, and that's only in its second mention. So, and as we know that we're gonna keep hearing and seeing Bad Wolf. It's gonna be graffiti. It's gonna be the name of somebody's helicopter. Yeah, and the Bad Wolf Corporation, and on things like that. And I just remember how much fun it was to spin theories about what it might mean. And of course, I had my ideas and I was completely wrong, which is the most fun of all, you know. And how I loved the final revelation of the Bad Wolf and the reasons for it and so on. So I just got excited about the first year, about the Ninth Doctor year all over again. It's a wonderful thing.
So, Clarence, what about you? What did you find most interesting about this one?
I mean, I don't remember having as much fun with this Doctor now, you know, as I had before. Because you remember, but it's not like I was just, raving about this Doctor. But man, he has so many great lines in the show. So many great moments. A moment with him and Rose when he's like, now she's asking him about, asking about how he can travel all time and space. And he says, not a bad life. She just says better with two. And there was like 2 or 3 moments in this episode where he kind of throws in a one line. I'm like, oh, that's so good, you know? And it just kind of continues on from the last episode, you know, just great quips, great lines in there. And that's kind of what I'm really loving about, you know, about this Doctor. And just, you know, Rose has a certain freshness. You know, I said freshness, but this is the beginning of the reboot. Mm-hmm. But just having gone through all the episodes and coming back, you know, you feel that freshness that she brings to the role. And yeah, it's just really enjoying it. What about you, man?
Yeah, that's, you know, I have to admit something. And for this particular episode, I don't think I have seen this one since my watch through of the David Tennant episodes. And I don't know why I watched this one, you know, because this is not David Tennant, but I watched every episode up to the end of time for, you know, in 2010. So, you know, there you go. It was 2010 or actually 2009 since I've seen this. So it's been, you know, my gosh, God, blah, blah, blah. It's been, you know, 9 years since I've, seen this. So, having said that, wow, it's been 9 years, but, having said that again, I really remembered what happened to some degree, but I wasn't like super excited, kind of like I'm not that excited because I don't like the Slitheen. So next week's episode is not one that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see. But now having watched this one and seen the moments that you two have just mentioned and thinking for what this was as a story, it was, you know, pretty darn good. Now I'm excited to, Slitheen aside, to see what other tidbits that I've forgotten about over the years.
So yeah, let me ask you guys. You know, I'm just thinking about you know, I've been talking about the special effects quality and how I was surprised going back for these first 2 episodes, how good it was. And it kind of gets short shrift when we talk about it as compared to what we see today. But again, I think it was a really good special effects episode for its day. And was it just me, or was some of the panning and the camera work, and maybe Lee, maybe you can speak to this, was it purposely shot like an older style movie? Or was it just bad transfer? That's just how they shot it at the time. I don't know. It just seemed like they shot it in the older style for certain scenes, especially when it was in the house, in the morgue, as well as, you know, when they were panning in the Charles Dickens around them and stuff. I felt like it was very much shot in a certain style, but maybe it was just me reading into it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I know exactly what you mean, but
well, yeah, particularly that first shot when they show Charles Dickens, he's like sitting at a table, and they are like panned in on the mirror, and they like pull out. It's a shot in the style that kind of, I don't know, I picked up on it, but maybe it's just a transfer because we know this is a standard definition show that they've already zoomed in to make it, you know, kind of HD. Yeah. So maybe it's just the weird transfer that makes it look a little vintage to me.
Yeah, if it wasn't intended to ever be HD, yeah, maybe so.
But you know what, Clarence, I can't put my finger on it, but I you know, I keep seeing as you're describing that, and I don't know if it's like what you're saying, they're trying to up the quality, and you're watching it on Amazon, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, so I am too. This is one of the episodes that I don't actually own. So if I'm watching it on Amazon, maybe their streaming quality got me, and I know we discussed that in a previous episode. I don't know if that was it, but my eyes saw whatever it was that you're referring to. I can't, you know, put words to what that is, but I kind of had that same feeling like, okay, the quality is just different.
Yeah.
Which I find is, you know, interesting. Is it the year, or is it, you know, did they do it on purpose? Exactly.
Yeah. So, guys, big question. Tell me all the times the Doctor has been a fanboy. I want to know this. Give me the details.
Well, he's very excited to see Agatha Christie. And he's got one of her paperbacks in the control room, which I think is something. Yeah, leaping ahead, he's going to be super excited to meet Shakespeare, and we learned that he knows what he's talking about. What other things jump to your mind?
Going back into the past again, and one that will get me every single time, Vincent Van Gogh.
Vincent, absolutely, yes.
So good.
Yeah.
You know, and pretty much he's if it's a historical figure, he is a fan. I mean, have you ever noticed that?
Absolutely.
If he's meeting a historical figure, it pretty much, unless that I take that back. They did meet Hitler and he was not a fan. So let me clarify that. Most historical figures, he is a fan.
Right. But that gets made up for by how big a Churchill fan he is. So he's excited to be around Churchill. Yeah, when I was saying it's always great when they meet a historical figure, and then I qualified it, I was thinking about how shamefully H.G. Wells gets treated.
Explain.
When the sixth doctor meets him, and there's this young man who's he's in the story, and it's not important that he's in the story at all. It's just a total waste of the character. And then we sort of at some point find out that that's H.G. Wells, and you kind of know where this joke is going, and off as they're taking him back to his own time and place. He says, time travel, that's interesting. I might write a book about that. And it's just, okay, wow, that was a long way to go to get there. That was, it's just, it's too bad. But,
which makes it so great in this Charles Dickens story is that, we learn that it's the end of his life. He has more writing left, which I felt that perspective. I appreciate that a lot more, because he's already done the stuff that's great. The Doctor's already a fanboy of all that he's done so far and is quoting as much and talking about the books. And, he just gives him a little joy before the end, which I thought was fantastic.
I love that.
And I love the fact that you subconsciously, or maybe you did this on purpose, but regardless of why or how, you use fantastic. Good play on words.
You get conditioned, sort of, to say that.
So I have a question for both of you, and it's more on the Ninth Doctor than it is the story itself. So, and I think I have even alluded or brought this up to you guys before, but I think it's worth stating again. I am really enjoying going back and watching. And Clarence, I'm so glad that you suggested, going back to 2005 and starting reviewing every episode, because for this very reason, I had forgotten how much I enjoyed Eccleston's Ninth Doctor. And I'm going to ask this question. If I've asked it before, I'm asking it again. Do we think that my forgetting the Ninth Doctor or not giving much credence or as much credence to his era is because of Eccleston not wanting to, be what other doctors do after they leave Doctor Who? Or is it just, it's been so long ago? Clarence, what do you think?
I don't know. I think it's maybe more not an effect of his time on the show, and maybe a more effective, or a result of Tennant coming next. Tennant was a great doctor, and they keep kind of upping the ante. So maybe the shortened time along with Tennant coming next, maybe, I don't know, gives you a lesser opinion of him. You don't have him as much in your consciousness, but yeah, I don't know.
What do you think? What do you think, Lee?
I really think it's that he was overshadowed by David Tennant, and also just a lot of time has passed. We've had a lot to grapple with. We've had 3 doctors since then, it's just been a lot to have in our minds. But I'm having the exact experience too. I just can't get over how much I'm enjoying the Ninth Doctor. I forgot how well. And when I was listening to the previous episodes of this show, where the two of you were talking about Rose and the end of the world, I can't remember which of you said it. We were talking about Eccleston as the kind of this motor mouth doctor that he's hyperactive. He will not shut up. And I had forgotten about that, but I love that about him. I just love that he's endlessly narrating his own thoughts and making comments on things and moving on. One of my favorite things, this is weird, but one of my favorite things in Unquiet Dead is him rattling off a bunch of stuff. Dickens has an opinion. The doctor tells him to shut up.
Yes.
And then he goes back to what he's talking about.
So great.
And then in the very next scene, of course, he's again sort of narrating his thoughts and then interrupts himself to say, by the way, shouldn't have said shut up to you about that. I'm sorry. And goes back to what he's saying. Mark Gatiss had he either had really picked up on what Russell T Davies was trying to do with the character, or that's RTD as an editorial hand, making sure that the Doctor is consistent from episode to episode.
Okay, so I'm going to make a comment that will probably be blasphemy to Sherlock fans. So let me say that and say that well before I say what I'm about to say. I don't mean this, just take it for what it is about what I'm about to say. I love Mark Gatiss's work on Sherlock. However, there are a lot of things that he has written in Doctor Who that I've not been a fan of or think that was a very strong episode. That being said, this was not... Which one? Which one?
Lazarus. Yeah, I was just coughing and saying Lazarus. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. But, this one was one that I actually found that I enjoyed. And watching this particular Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, I keep coming back to the fact of, yes, Tom Baker was my first Doctor whenever I was a kid. But as an adult, Christopher Eccleston was my first Doctor, experiencing Doctor Who as an adult. And when I had to part ways with him, I can remember, my eyes starting to get very excessively irritated while, I was watching, in ways that, as much as I liked the 12th Doctor, they did not become as nearly as irritated as it did, when I had to part ways with the 9th. So I guess it's just a compliment to the writing back to 2005, but I just find it very weird that all three of us are Doctor Who fans, and we seem to keep bringing up that we forgot how good some of these episodes were.
Yeah. But what a pleasant surprise, huh?
Ooh, very, very true. Very true. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say one other thing in the episode that I loved that they kind of explained off with, I guess not really science, but they had a really good explanation, was when Gwyneth was, given the prophetic words to Rose. And, they kind of used the fact that she grew up on the Rift as why she has these powers, which I thought was awesome. Just an awesome explanation. Really loved that about this episode. And also how in the, if we move on a little further to the seance they had, how they kind of brought up the Time War, I thought was really cool. They keep, like you mentioned with the Bad Wolf, these first few episodes they have been peppering in the Time War. So also cool stuff to kind of get us into it.
And Clarence, you just made me see something that I've never seen before. So I'm going to pose a theory to the two of you. So it is a true statement that Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat are friends. Would you not both agree that outside, because they work together, or if they're not friends, they are professional collaborators? Would we agree that's a true statement?
Yeah, they're the co-creators of two TV series. Okay.
So having said that, I'm going to pose the theory that Stephen Moffat used a little bit of Mark Gatiss's brain energy with the rift of Gwyneth and being, things absorbing into Gwyneth because of the rift, when he just happened to not have a rift, but more maybe of a crack in a child's wall that absorbed into the child, that made this child immune to all different kinds of wibbly wobblies and timey-wimeys. Just posing that, I just find that quite interesting watching this now, knowing that they're friends, and that's just like the three of us talking when we're not recording, and one of us pick up on an idea and use it a different way. Case in point, Clarence, I was making a comment to you the other day that I really liked how you said something on your Star Trek Discovery podcast, and I said, "Oh, well, I'm going to steal that because I like how you said it." So, I just found that interesting, that, that little tidbit there.
And it's how a writer's room works, or a writing staff works, is you're constantly sharing ideas like that. So, I'm sure you're exactly right. There's, they have to have just spent time talking about, okay, there are access points on the Earth to other dimensions. So let's talk about that. So that's where the crack in the wall comes from. And that makes perfect sense. And wasn't there something similar on Class as well? That there was some kind of a physical.
Yeah.
I can't remember now, but it was like
it was the heart, wasn't it? The heart was one of the characters had the heart, and that was the connection between the Shadow King or the Demon King or whatever it was.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't even thinking of that. I was thinking of something like another hole in the wall kind of thing. But there was definitely that. She became the Rift. Yeah, that's right. So I have to think everybody who's writing in the Doctor Who universe, there's this collective body of ideas that you can draw on and think about, precedents that have been set and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
What do you guys think of the I guess the moral quandary of the episode? And that's the point where they talk about, the Doctor's willing to let these Gelth, I think that's how you say them, the Gelth come through and use dead bodies. And Rose is just, no, that's not right. You have to respect the dead, which I just thought it provided just a good moment to kind of look at things a little bit differently. Of course, we have a lot of things to play in how we respect our dead, religion, passing on to whatever afterlife your religion supports. So I thought that was just a really good moment to make us think a little bit, because the Doctor was like, do you have a donor card? I was like, wow, you really hurt my brain now.
And the way that's played is he has dealt with this subject already 1,000 years, 800 years ago, moving on. He's already made up his mind about how he feels about this and is impatient that Rose isn't right there with him. Yeah. Now, to me, this is science fiction at its best, when it can make us think about things IRL in a way that we haven't before. And I'm still remembering from back in 2006, the sort of thrill of that moment. It's like, wow, that's a real important. Wow, I'm not sure whose side I'm on here. That's that when she says you can't do that, and he says, why not? I thought, I don't have a good answer actually.
And he kind of provides a second moment in the episode where he kind of just outright is going to say what was on his mind, because he tells her it's a different morality. Get used to it or go home. I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah. And which, very, again, looking way into the future, but it very much parallels the conversation that the 12th Doctor has with Bill when they're on the frozen Thames.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation. He says, this is how it is.
And what I find quite interesting is that was also the third episode of the, series 10. Because, we kept referring to the introduction of Bill was like a reintroduction of Doctor Who. So you had the introduction, first episode of the companion. The second episode, you have a future episode. The third episode is a historical episode. So
you go into the past.
Yeah. So, right there, series 10, series 9, another example of them paralleling each other in a way.
And, since I've thought about that before, I haven't sat down to do it, and I know somebody else has. But if this isn't consciously something that we do with all of our new companions, that the first story takes place on Earth in the present, then the next one takes you into the future, and then the third one takes you into the past. Because it seemed to me like we did it with Martha, too. Yeah. And I'm thinking, did we do it with Donna as well. I just haven't sat down and looked at the episodes, but wouldn't it be fun if it turned out that was actually a formula that we've been quietly following all this time?
I never even realized it.
But it did do it with Bill, definitely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this episode makes me. Well, I have to ask you guys this question: can we think of times that the Doctor has made the wrong decision? Because what we see in this episode is that his willingness to trust this guilt, this alien species, kind of leads to them getting into this almost impossible position to where, they say about Charles Dickens. Mm-hmm. And Rose, knows this is not a game anymore. She kind of says, "Oh, I can die. I can't die." So, can you give me an example of other instances the Doctor has kind of, just made a bad decision when he's think he's doing the right thing?
Good one.
Yeah, that's a terrific question, really, isn't it? Because it's so important to the character. If he's flawless, then I think he ceases to be interesting. So yeah, we know that he's really messed up sometimes. He shouldn't have, I guess if we're going to look ahead in the new series, I think he shouldn't have let Rose get so close to baby Rose in Father's Day. Yeah. I mean, he tells her, "You can't do this. I can't even let you go watch this." And then he does it anyway. And, yeah.
Okay, so since you brought that up, that's one of my pet peeves of the entire series because we know that other companions can physically touch their younger selves, and
we've seen it.
Yes, we've seen it. Maybe the world was already ending. That's why it was okay. But yeah. But back to Clarence's question, and in the context, I'm going to answer it in the context of the perception of the Ninth Doctor. So let me preface that before I say what I'm about to say. So in the perception of the Ninth Doctor, one of the mistakes that I think that he's made in his eyes is killing his own people by what he did to end the Time War, by killing all Daleks and all Time Lords alike to end the Time War. I think that would be a mistake that he regrets and is probably some of the reasons why he's willing to be as forgiving, especially when these beings say, we are here because of the Time War. It's guilt.
Point. Good point.
Not necessarily trusting, but guilt instead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that does seem to be the motivation there. Yeah.
So
he owes it to them.
Yeah. So very good question. Very good question. Yeah. So, gentlemen, any other thoughts about this particular episode?
It's as we've seen the budgets come and go for the show, I was really impressed by how big it seems. We've got a theater that's full of people in the audience, and that's something that you can't always afford to do on a show like this. But to get all these people together, and that means you have to costume them. Yeah, and I thought that was very impressive. Everything there in the theater, where you reach back to one of the very best of the classic series, The Talons of Wing Chiang. That whole thing is set in a Victorian theater, and we kept seeing the stage, but you never had the point of view shot where you looked out and saw the audience,
Yeah.
Because that would have broken the bank. So you're always in the audience looking at the stage. But yeah, with this you saw everything, and I think the Gelth are a really impressive effect. You can't not think of the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
But they're just they're completely convincing to me. And I always love the little moment where they'll go zipping back toward the gas lights and this little pop when they go down they go back down the pipes. And I just love that. So it's just fun to watch. A fun story to watch.
All right, Clarence, any other thoughts from you on this episode?
One in particular that I didn't really get is when the point that the doctor said Gwyneth was already dead. And then Rose says, but she was talking, and then the doctor just kind of blows it off. I didn't really understand it, but part of the show, I guess we're not to understand it. Yeah. And also, And also when the Undertaker like kidnapped Rose for no apparent reason, I really didn't understand that either. Though it gives the doctor reason to come to the morgue. So hey.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there too, because it was like he really wasn't bad, but I think maybe he tried to play it more sinister at the beginning to create some suspense, and then made him sympathetic at the end. Because technically both of them die anyway.
Yeah. But I never for one moment thought he was bad.
No, I saw bumbling, not bad.
Yeah. He's in a tough situation. And yeah. But yeah, why did they kidnap Rose? Yeah.
Well, because, she had seen too much. No, she hadn't seen too much. She was just there and was nosy. If he would have said she's nosying in our business, then that made sense. But no, she's seen too much. Okay, you saw a dead body. It's a hearse. Not that big of a surprise that you see a dead body in a hearse.
Where you'd expect them.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. Yeah.
So that just didn't make sense to me. But before we finish, Lee, I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I never paid attention I didn't pay attention the last time I watched it to the 2 sugar cubes in the coffee or tea or whatever. Is that a Third Doctor reference to the Doctor wanting tea from Joe Grant, or where have we heard that before?
Yeah, I don't know. I never thought of it as being something connected to the classic series.
And neither did I whenever I watched it the first time, but for some reason I am wondering if in that episode that we reviewed on Podshot with Lewis, and it was actually you and I's first time on, and we were reviewing the Solarians, and I remember that there was something about making sandwiches, and he's like, Joe, fetch me something to eat or something like that. I'm wondering if in that scene, if that's what I'm remembering, that he said, and I'll have 2 teas or 2 sugars in my tea or something.
Well, I don't know, but maybe this is a good time to pitch to how people can contact the show. Because somebody out there is going to know that, and they're going to write in and tell us.
Yeah, guys, if you want to send us some fan mail, you can send it in to discussingwho@gmail.com. Also, if you want to leave us a voicemail, you can call us and leave that at 805-850-DWHO.
Good deal. Well, gentlemen, this has been a honor and a privilege. It has been fun to talk about. So thank you for joining me on the Unquiet Dead review. So appreciate it. And for everyone listening, we appreciate your time, and we will be back next time.
Discussing Who is brought to you by Audible. You've probably heard of Audible, but just in case, they are the world's leading provider of audiobooks. They have more than 180,000 titles. Let me say that again. 180,000 titles to choose from. Imagine a genre, they've got an audiobook. And these files play on smartphones, Kindles, tablets, in fact, over 500 different devices. Now, for fans of Discussing Who, Audible is offering a free download when you start a new Audible subscription. And you can choose anything at all from that vast library, but we know you want to get one of their absolutely fantastic Doctor Who titles, which include New Adventures of the Doctor, but also Torchwood and River Song, and they're performed for you by actors you know and love. Wonderful voices, Tom Baker, Alex Kingston, David Tennant, the list goes on and on. So try it out for 30 days. And if at the end of the month you decide Audible is not for you, you still get to keep that Doctor Who book you downloaded. So look at it this way. Free Doctor Who book. So here's how you get started. Point your favorite web browser to audibletrial.com/discussingwho. That's Audible Trial, all one word, audibletrial.com/discussingwho, also one word. And that's how you get your free book. What could be better than that? You've been listening to the Discussing Who podcast. Discussing Who is made by fans for fans. No copyright infringement is intended. Show us you're fans of the show by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter. You can find us on the web at www.discussingwho.com. Want more Discussing Who? Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Player FM, the Doctor Who Podshock Alliance, and more. Send us your feedback to discussingwho@gmail.com, or if you'd like, simply record a voice message and send that to us via your smartphone, tablet, or computer. We want to hear from you.